Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Good evening and welcome to Carnegie Town Hall. I call this meeting for the Sioux Falls Planning Commission to order. I would like to make a reminder on a couple items. Out of courtesy, please, for everyone, please silence all your electronic devices. We look forward to hearing your testimony tonight and appreciate you joining us. In an effort to have enough time to hear from the audience members, we ask that when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 5 minutes to allow others to hear, or allow us to hear from everyone that would like to speak. At this time, we will consider the consent agenda. Denise, please read the items on the consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item 1, approval of minutes. 1A, Planning Commission briefing of Wednesday, April 2nd, 2019. Item 1B, Planning Commission meeting of Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. Item 2A, petition 10084-2019, preliminary subdivision plan for RB Flower Fields Edition, located north of West 41st Street and east of South Grinnell Avenue. Item 2B, petition 10112-2019, rezone from the RT1 single-family residential traditional district to RT2 townhome residential traditional district located at 818 West 6th Street. Item 2C, petition 10197-2019, rezone from the CN Conservation C2 commercial neighborhood and streetcar RA2 apartment residential moderate density to the CN Conservation and O office located at the northwest corner of East Jackson Street and southeastern Avenue. Item 3, consent agenda approval.
Thanks, Denise. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address any of those items? Commissioners? Look for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes. And we'll move to the regular agenda. I will need a motion to approve the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the regular agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Passes. Denise, could you read number item 1?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item 5A, petition 10101-2019, rezone from the CN Conservation District and O Office District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District, RCD, Residential Cluster Development, PUD District, and RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, located north of West 41st Street and east of South Grinnell Avenue.
Planning Commissioners, Albert Schmidt, Planning and Development Services. This location, as Denise noted here, is kind of the northeast corner of 41st and Grinnell. There's kind of two separate portions of that. And so you can see that currently right now it's zoned CN and office. Between the two areas, we're talking approximately 7.31 acres that is currently owned by RB Flower Fields LLC. Right now, the zoning change that they're proposing is mainly, most of it, to single-family residential on the northeast portion. And then on the southwest portion, the portion at 41st and Grinnell, two zoning types. Along 41st Street, a higher density RD1 zoning for twin homes, and then an RCD district for high density single family. So this one brought a few different conditions, and that's why it's on our regular agenda. We haven't had any concerns from any abutting or neighboring properties about this specific request, but rather with the RCD, we're also doing an initial development plan for those high density single family homes. And you can see here on this one, this is the plan laying forward. Each property will have its own parking on site. We'll have its setbacks met as the higher than the minimum actually would have. But the only thing that comes into consideration here, and the reason why we have a condition in place, is when you do a high density, we have a buffer requirement between these high-density homes and regular suburban single-family homes. And so they've done a really good job here on the plan, on the northwest corner, showing the buffer yard location. And just to head off any future issues on this property, the south portion, they're showing twin homes already, so it shouldn't be an issue on our side of it. But we just thought we'd put the condition in there where we'd limit what could go in there, what forms could go in there by just simply taking out the suburban single family, which is normally allowed there. Again, not in the plans to do anyways, but this way just clears it up, makes it so if the area came in for redevelopment later on as well, that they wouldn't have that issue pop up where you'd have to have a buffer yard in the middle of the street and try to figure that out at a later point. So with that in mind, we have our recommendation for approval with that condition that we limit the forms to the AD1 and the AD2 in the RD1 zoning district along 41st and South Grinnell Avenue. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Okay, is the applicant here? Is the applicant's not here? Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I think it's been our policy in the past, if the applicant isn't here, we would typically defer this to another meeting, next meeting, so the applicant can be present to answer questions. So with that, I will make a motion to defer item 5A to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
So we got a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes.
Item 5B, petition 10163, 2019, rezone from the C2 Commercial and Streetcar District to the LW Live Work District located at the southwest corner of East 69th Street and South Vineyard Avenue.
Jason Bieber representing Planning and Development Services. This is an application by Rob Kurtenbach. The owner is First Premier Bank. The applicant is proposing to rezone roughly 3.49 acres from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District to the LW Live Work District. They're looking at, the bank is looking at just starting to market this property, and they're having difficulty marketing it for commercial, so they're looking to either market it for an office use or an apartment use. It's located at the southwest corner of 69th and South Vineyard Avenue. This is just southwest of the Horizons Harrisburg School. East 69th Street, as you know, is classified as a limited access arterial street. The proposed zoning meets the criteria of the comprehensive plan. The proposed live-work district allows office and apartment uses that we would typically see on limited access arterial district or arterial streets, specifically at full access points, which Vineyard Avenue will be. There'll eventually be a stop or a signal there. Finally, the proposed office or apartment uses will provide a good transition from the commercial uses to the west, adjacent to 69th and Southeastern, to the north, to the existing twin homes to the south, and then, as you can see on this map, the existing single-family residential neighborhood to the southeast. If the rezoning of this property is approved, the applicant can construct office and apartments greater than 2 stories in size. If the rezoning is denied, the property will continue to be zoned at C2 and allow retail, office, and also does allow apartment uses, but those would be limited to 2 stories in height. Because the subject application is consistent with the Shape Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan, and the proposed office and apartment uses should provide a good transition from that west 69th Street to the existing twin home and single family uses to the south, staff does recommend approval of this rezoning, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Jason. Commissioners, any questions? Is the applicant here? Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Rob Kurtenbach with Bender Commercial Real Estate at 122 South Phillips Avenue. We represent First Premier Bank. This is some land they've owned for, or have acquired back through a foreclosure for about 7 years. And they have been encouraged by regulators to get this property sold by the end of 19. And so that's part of the reason for the rezoning is we just want to downgrade the zoning to live work.
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to address this item? If you could state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Mike Krause. I live at 6230 South Badlands Court. It's the lowest corner lot up on your screen. And my concerns are just twofold. I have no issue with the C2 zoning the way it is now. The live work, the concern I have there would be an apartment complex, the density of a smaller Copper Creek over east of 11. Jason has been really good and patient with me on 3 different phone calls and educating me. But my concern is that home where I live and my surrounding neighbors, this is my last stop. I went a long time legging up. I've been self-employed for 22 years in residential and commercial construction. Self-employed as a remodeling contractor, finish carpenter. That's my last stop. They're going to carry me out of there. I went a long time looking for a ranch lot. And I love Doug Allen and his siblings and every effort they make on every development. And I've got nothing against growth. I don't want to stand in the way of progress, but to get a high density apartment complex in there really goes against the values of that neighborhood, I think. And in deference to Rob, I've got, this is tough for him. We're shooting geese at tea when they're coming off the water at Pier. We don't know what's going to go in there. I've got no issue with what Joshua is doing to the west. That's a live work. And they're doing office structures, or hope to, and townhouses, and I want them to succeed. I want to see this neighborhood grow. I got no problem with any of that. My second concern is, and it may not be within your purview, would be the increased traffic that any apartment complex would add to that roundabout. And there is, not to sound like a whiny boy, 20 miles an hour, the thing works. But it's become the eternal left turn of NASCAR, and it's the new ride in town, and a lot of people do not go 20 miles an hour. About a year and a half ago, city engineering was very patient with me on the telephone, and I complained about the plantings, and they've gotten even bigger, even though they cut them back in the wintertime. You can't see across. I've traveled to the east. I got a young son in Indianapolis. He's doing residency there. Lots of roundabouts. None of them are planted. City engineering explained to me, and I accept the explanation and the design, to keep people focused on the traffic circuit rather than looking across. I get that. But above 20 miles an hour, it doesn't work. Now, I don't know, you can't plant law enforcement there. Maybe bigger signs or something, and maybe more traffic flow will choke them down. But you take your life in your own hands going there, and more traffic's going to make that worse. Beyond that, I'm glad to see my government in work and action. And Rob, if I could spend a couple minutes with you. But right now, I'm fine with C2. I'm fine with live work unless it gets to be a big complex, and then not so much. And I've informally met with some of my neighbors. I didn't want to throw gas on a fire that didn't need to be lit. I'm just here for information. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any commissioners, any questions for Mike?
Chair, I do. Sir, are you mostly concerned with density, height, or both? Or could you just
Yeah, I didn't explain. Yes, an overgrown development to the west of there, that purple shaded area. If a developer were to come in and buy that package too, because there's no underground in there, then it's a big complex. Jason told me, and I went out and looked at 41st and Sparta. The Costello development has a similar sized project going on there. It's looking like they're going to have 4 complexes on that piece of ground, which is a little bit more than 3 acres, and this is at 3.5. So maybe they get 5 units up on this particular plot, But if somebody were to pick up that Lavender section too, then it's awfully big.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the commissioners on this item? Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve item 5B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, as I understand the zoning classifications here, it appears as though we're going to be downgrading the potential quote-unquote density of use with this particular change. So regards to fast traffic in and out of a commercial project as opposed to a potential office or apartment, I think we're doing the neighborhood a favor with respect to this proposed change, and it gives the seller a little more flexibility with what seems to be in demand in the market right now. So at this point, I'm in favor of it.
I appreciate your thought, Commissioner Johnson. As I heard Albert talk, or I guess it was Jason talk about the difference between those two, really it sounded like the big difference as far as apartment density goes is that the live-work can go a little taller, whereas it's limited in height in the C2 zoning. And so that was kind of where my question came to the person that was opposed, because I think being right adjacent to RD1 on the other side of the street could be an issue when we get to maybe a 4-story apartment building right next to that. So I think that's where my primary concern lies.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, so I am in support of this one. As I look at the location of the land on 69th and kind of away from Southeastern, this seems to be the perfect spot for where you're going to have live work instead of a commercial sort of a zoning. So I definitely think it makes sense here. I mean, I understand the concerns about going up in height, but that's kind of just the way apartment buildings are built these days. And it's a small enough, 3.5 acres. I don't think you're going to see a huge complex there. I think it's still going to be relatively appropriate for the land.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, so all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Passes.
Item 5C, petition 10198, 2019, conditional use permit for a full-service restaurant located within 250 feet of a sensitive land use at 100 East 85th Street.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Adam Roach, Planning and Development Services. Item 5C is a conditional use permit to allow a full-service restaurant within 250 feet of a sensitive land use. The applicant is Paul Reynolds. The owner is Springdale Development, LLC. The applicant is proposing to construct a new restaurant and bar and the associated parking lot. The proposed full-service restaurant meets the criteria of the comprehensive plan. This is an existing arterial corridor with commercial uses. The parking is on site. The applicant should pay special attention to screening the proposed outdoor patio to the existing residential uses to the north. Finally, an approved security management plan is required before an alcohol license can be approved. Because the applicant has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit. And with that, open up for any questions.
Thanks, Adam. Commissioners, any questions? Is the applicant here? State your name and address.
I'm Andy Heckman with Reynolds Construction Management, 4402 South Technology Drive. On behalf of Paul Reynolds, who wasn't able to come tonight. Was there any further questions that you guys might have for the?
Any questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to address this on this item? Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval of item 5C.
Second.
So you have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes.
Item 6 is public input on non-agenda items.
Is there anyone that'd like to address us on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to new business.
Item 7, City of Sioux Falls Planning Commissioner recognition. Steve Gasper.
Sorry, I guess I'm a little nervous.
Test.
Well, tonight's kind of a fun thing that we get to do, also a little sad, I would say. First, we're going to recognize Steve Gaspar, who's been on the Planning Commission for 10 years. I was just looking at, he started in 2009, which is kind of funny because that was about 6 months after I started with the City of Sioux Falls. So that's how long he's been on Planning Commission and the commitment it takes to be on Planning Commission. Numerous meetings down in Canton, Minnehaha County, Courthouse here. So, Steve, if you'd come down here, we'd like to give you a little something and get your picture taken. Come on.
Just clap.
I know you're probably going to hang that up in your trophy case with some track lighting on it and everything.
Right next to my Coach of the Year.
Yeah, great. So, thank you, Steve, for all your work. We appreciate it. Next, we have Nick Sershin. He's also been on the Planning Commission for 10 years. What can I say about Nick? It's going to be hard shoes to fill. He really just knows a lot about this stuff, almost as much as us as staff. So, over the years, I've really appreciated your expertise and your willingness to give comments, cut to the chase, maybe tell it how it is.
You just like that I call you Justin Bieber.
Yeah, he does call me Justin too. So, Nick, come on down here. We'll give you your plaque here, and Albert will get a picture so we can start archiving all of our planning commissioners. So 50 years down the line, we'll know who was served in 2019.
Thanks, guys, for all your hard work. And I mean, 10 years of service is a lot. So thank you for giving back to your community. So I'll look for adjournment.
Mr. Chair.
Let Steve second. I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, Sioux Falls.